So I had a chance to joint the sides of the back and the top, and I glued them together last night. This is the back. It's so pretty. I'm going to put some water on this to pop the grain, and it should give us an idea of what the quilting is going to look like. Now here's the top. And again, this was book matched, so this used to be one piece of wood that I cut down the center, and this is actually the center. What's really interesting is this piece and this piece, when they were together, are the width of a saw blade, 2 millimeters apart, and there's still some differences in the grain. So in that 2 millimeters, like this piece and this piece used to go together, and so this is a really interesting figure. But let's put some water on these and see what they're going to look like. I'm really interested to see this. And then I'm going to trace out our Telecaster shape, and we'll go ahead and get to cutting these out today. The bridge came in the mail yesterday, and so I'll have a chance to draw out the fretboard now, and that just makes the next few steps much easier. But oh my gosh, wow. I don't know if this is going to come through. That's the top. Holy moly. Look at that. That is so pretty. So this will be where the neck comes in. Look at the back. Man, that quilting is really nice. This is exactly what I wanted. Everything that Nola kept saying reminded me of the sky, and so I'm hoping that these quilts, when I do a blue and sand back, will sort of look like clouds with a whitewash over it. So our next step is to identify our center line. Center lines are really important, and since I'm doing a book match top, the joint that I use is actually going to act as my center line. So I don't really need to mark it out, but it's good to just keep it there so you know what's going on. Same with my back. When you draw these out, you have to remember whatever side you pick for the back, I'm going to have to reverse my template. So when I run this through the bandsaw, I'll be cutting out a reverse image of the telly. Then we'll get to sanding so that these can be jointed together. So this is going to be on the inside, and this is going to sit on top of it, just like this. And so what I need to do is get rid of as much material on the inside as I can of both faces, so that about 2 inches is really what I'm looking for to have a perfect seam. When you hold these two together, this wood, the grains are the exact same. It's really nice to use the same board, and so this line should relatively disappear once I get it all glued together. And so it'll look like a one-piece top, but it'll be book matched, and it's going to be really pretty. So let me get to some sanding. I'm going to trace this out once the water dries, and then decide which end of this I want to be the top or the bottom. I kind of like that, so it'll probably be this right here. So let me get these traced out, and then we'll hit to the bandsaw, and we might even get to the point where I'll be gluing up a body today. It's a little thick, so right now it's sitting at right at 2 inches, and so I want to get that down to about 1 3/4 inches. So I'll probably take off from this board. I don't want to lose any of the thickness in this guy. So I'll probably take 1/4 inch off the top of this with my plane, and then joint the two faces. And again, we're going to hog out some material, but I got to get the shape cut so that I don't sand any more than I need to. Once the shape is cut, I know exactly where I need to sand and what it takes to get this level. so that when they marry each other, it's a really nice fit. So let me get these cut out. Remember, if you're using a bandsaw to set it up, the other day I didn't have my bearings and everything, and I had some wandering in the blade, and so that can really screw you up if you're not ready for it. I'm going to cut some relief cuts where you just cut in so that the saw, once I get here, I can edge that out and then make these contours a little easier. I always leave a lot of room here at the neck pocket because of the way I build. This is going to end up being, on the top it doesn't matter, but on the back, the way violins are built, the back plate actually has a little heel cutout, and that will help with the ergonomic neck that I'm going to make. So the tenon will come in to about here, the back will actually float out, and then I'll put a heel cap that'll match the back. And it'll make sense once I start cutting and we get to that point, which won't be for a little bit. I have to build the neck first. So let's cut the top out. I always leave a lot of room. I'm going to throw this on a spindle sander that I have and clean these edges up. I always leave a lot of room for this neck pocket because when I build the tenon, I want to have space so that I sand the body to the neck. The neck will be the width that I want. The neck will be, the right proportions. And then once you sand this to the neck, you get a seamless transition from the body to the neck. With bolt-ons, this is usually open, and so the neck sits in a pocket and you can see the side of the neck. This is going to be more like a Les Paul where the sides of the body meet the sides of the neck, and your only transition is this little spot right here. You'll see once I get to it. All right, now that I've got my top and bottoms cut out, rough cut, I like to keep, it's okay to miss a little bit because we're going to do final shaping on the spindle sander. I've got a belt sander with two different size contour radiuses, and so I'll use that to clean this up and make sure I get a nice clean line. And again, I'm going to leave this open for now until we get down to adding the neck. So it is starting to come together. Let's see. So if I drop this guy, it's probably going to end up being something like that. This is going to be really pretty. I'm very excited. So I'm going to sand these, and then I'll probably get to cleaning up the inside of these guys. We'll decide where we're going to hog out some material and take some off. And maybe I'll just focus on the body today. We'll get to the truss rod tomorrow, or the scarf joint. So I make sure to get most out of these two different radius ends. And you just follow this until you get that curve to fit into there, and you do that with each one of these points. You get a nice clean line. I'm not trying to dial in the exact shape right now. I'm just trying to get really close. What will end up happening is I'll get the bottom shaped how I like. I'll leave the top oversized just a hair. And then once I glue them both together, I'll come back and I'll use a router with a bearing flush cut bit and clean the top so that it marries the bottom exactly. And then there's final sanding. I'll probably bring it back to this again and clean up both of the edges. Sometimes I can avoid using a router if the top is as thin as that, and I can just bring it over here to the sander and sand everything together, and I might just do that because routers, invariably you're gonna get tear out, and the bits will leave some burning sometimes too, which is really hard to get rid of with sanding. And sometimes it's just easier to spend an extra 15 minutes and use a sander rather than grabbing a router and trying to do it in one pass, real quick. And I always end up screwing that up somehow. So I like to use a simple, tedious methodology. You get a better product, and you get to feel the wood, I'm sanding this in myself, and so I'm not using a template. I'm going straight off of something that I drew from a Telecaster that I owned. But I'll get into how I create templates. There's a program called Block Poster where I'll literally find a picture of, say, a Jazzmaster online and blow it up to the right dimensions, and then use that as my template. So with my stuff, you really can design it on a napkin, and I'll build it for you. All right, now that I've got my bodies roughly outlined, so that's the back, I'm gonna, flatten the sides. And the way I do that is my jointer, or my thickness planer, isn't wide enough to take a whole body, and to be honest, I don't like running stuff through it because of chip out. I just got this is a block of alder that I know is flat. I flattened it, and I just put a piece of 60 grit sandpaper on it, and I sand until I know that that these edges are all, basically I run some pencil lead around the perimeter, and once I start sanding, I'll see where the high spots are. And so right now it's high in the middle. I'm not getting any of this as I'm sanding, so I need to focus on getting rid of this material so that if there's a slight cup, that's good, because the perimeter is really all we care about, because that's where the seam is going to be visible. Once I clamp everything down, this thing's going to be solid. And this wood is actually a lot lighter than I thought it would be. I might not have to take any hog out any spots for weight. It's very light, which is surprising. Maple's usually a lot harder or heavier. It's not the heaviest wood, but I was surprised at how light this is. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of some of this material on the inside before I tear my shoulder out. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you want to see updates, leave comments. Yeah. See, I'm starting to get down to level right here. So this shouldn't take too long. I'm going to do that to this side, do that to this side, then I can glue the two together, move on to some of the next steps. This is going to be a string through body. The bridge came in the mail, so we're going to go with the humbucker Tele ashtray. But I'm going to swap out these saddles for some more vintage looking saddles. Nolan likes these vintage ones, and so the strings will go through. I'll have to do ferrules through the back, which will go, somewhere in here. We'll get to that later. So I just need to sit here and sand this out so we can glue this up. And I might get to doing the scarf joint today. I don't know.